people aren't really used to seeing the livelihoods in Africa. So of course, if you can't really attach to that, it's gonna be very foreign. So you think that every single black dude that you see is very dangerous because of movies and music, right? I think it's because of entertainment that had happened. But um, Ghana was the place where I felt most protected, where I felt like I belonged the most, but I was also targeted because, let's face it, there's a lot of poor people, and how are they gonna manage? How are they gonna see through feeding their families? And you can just think about it and be like, yeah, it must be tough. They have to find a part-time job. They have this opportunity. They have no excuses. But actually, no. Certain settings for certain people is just so direly, excruciatingly painful that they're resorted with only violence to obtain these kind of incomes through the most easiest thing. That Asian dude, he's walking. Let's get him. He probably has a phone. He probably has a wallet. Let's do it. How are we gonna pay for food tomorrow? Let's do it. Let's jump him. So that's unfortunately just human psychology, not Africans or black men. Yeah.
Another question. I don't think I ever got the chance to ask anyone else because I've never met someone with a background like you, right? Obviously, I lightly touched on that in the sense of like Caucasians who grew up in Africa, they are minorities. But in most cases, the narrative that the rest of the world is familiar with, Africans, they are always seen as the minority in a lot of places. In the States, you would, a couple of years ago, you would see what happened to George Floyd, and it sparked the whole Black Lives Matter movement, right? As, somewhat an African yourself, right? You grew up among a lot of Africans. How does it all make you feel? Because you grew up in a place where Africans were the majority.
Yeah.
But seeing how they are treated elsewhere as minorities, does that spark any emotions?
I think the approach that I have sometimes is wrong. The way that I react. I've had, for example, the closest memory that I have, I encountered them in Hong Kong, and I always see these kind of violence that are exacted onto minorities because I think people just don't know how to the compatibility. They don't know how to see. We're the same human beings, by the way, but just because our structures and our colors and our backgrounds and environment are just a little bit different, we try to actually not try, but maybe some people do try, but there's an alienation of some sort, right? And so that already creates space of fear. And many times how you encounter fear is by aggression, right? Because how else are you going to if you're not properly trained or exercised mentally, physically, emotionally, how would you respond anyways? You will do whatever you can to just show how much you can bark, right? So it happened to me and Lottie actually recently as well. We were walking through the pier and there was these groups of men, and we were like maybe 30 meters apart. Suddenly, like I hear from afar, "Hey, how you doing, Blackie?" And I stopped for a little bit, and Lottie just kept on walking. I was like, "Lottie." And for Lottie, she was just sick and tired of immaturity anyways. She's above that fucking shit, right? So she was like, let's go. For me, I was like, no, dude. No, that's not how I see it. So I come closer to them. By the way, there's 16 of them. I'm like 66 kg. Like, what could I do? But I just stood there just like staring at them in disgust, in pure disgust. Just like in sheer disgust, but not anger disgust. Like disappointed disgust. Like, why? Like, the weather is fucking beautiful right now. We're going for a walk. And you wanted to impress your crowd and humor them by using this tactic of putting someone lower. By the way, she will put you to the ground. You've seen Lottie. She is like, the bone structure and muscle mass on that person, my goodness. Yeah, she is impressive. But she knew a better fight. For me, I just had to at least let this person know. The fuck is wrong with you, right? And I still remember his reaction. As soon as he saw me and our eyes locked, I don't know what it was, and I'm hoping that it's guilt. But then he couldn't look at me. He had to turn away. He had to walk behind the crowd and hide. And the rest of the dudes, because they kind of sensed what was happening, some of them saw it as well. I still stood there, right? And all of them started to kind of like lean differently or kind of move away, mobilize away. And we just had to walk away from that. I'm still not satisfied by the way that I reacted. But at least at the end of the day, hopefully there was a lesson that was transmitted in a better way than what had happened to some victims in the States, where violence had to be met with violence. And then that caused someone to lose their life. And that life lost would affect too many people that for maybe a few weeks people will care about, and then everyone has to go on with their lives. It's painful. This happened many times in Hong Kong, including during COVID. If I could just share one more example, during COVID, we had to like be in small little groups and we had to be separated. Now, I live on Llama Island. For anyone that doesn't know, that's like 25 minutes by ferry down south of the main island, and we've got scheduled ferries, so you just have to kind of like wait it out. What else can we do when we're waiting it out? Drink some beers. That's what I do. Munch on something, right? Or just do something that's fun and good for yourself. And during that time, there was a lot of us of different ethnicities, but I saw from afar like a few older people from Hong Kong, just because they were speaking Cantonese and they looked much older. They were shouting at this African couple, particularly, that were eating McDonald's. They were at a corner. They were not even close to anyone. So why do you have to start this and pick on them? Now, maybe they would have acted the same way to everyone. I don't know. But because they were from a part of town that I grew up in that was so close to me, my feet just start to go closer to them and closer and closer and closer. I scare easy, by the way, but my feet just kept on going closer. And I sat next to them, popped my beer, put my mask down, and I just started to drink with them. And I was just like, hey, can I hang out with you guys? And I don't know what had happened behind me because I didn't want to see them, but the loud racial slurs start to disappear. The bad N-word, the bad go back to where you belong, all that shit started to dissipate. And we were just sitting there. Them having their Mickey D's and me my Tolly Asahi until I got onto that ferry. And I didn't feel proud. I just felt, what the fuck? Hong Kong is a safe, inclusive place in the most parts of it, right? In the most parts of it. But these kind of events happen to this place, and we start becoming so easily divided, and it hurts, it aches, just because you can't, we're the same human beings, but just because the color is different, you kind of start to do this whole alienation game, I think. Yeah, maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's what I felt.
I really love what you did in the incident that you just told us about, because I mean, while some people would say it's horrible that they were calling the couple names, but at the same time, sometimes the education level or the kind of education that they were exposed to, no one ever showed them otherwise. No one ever showed them how they should act next to people who don't look like them, right? But basically what you did by sitting down next to them, sharing a beer with them, was basically showing them this is how you could coexist with people who are different to you, which is very powerful.
Like, I think the infrastructure, the color, the landscape is different, but we feel the same feelings and we go through the same phases as human beings. So why can't we focus on that first?